Anthony Richardson, no matter what, the Florida quarterback, and you are obviously, based on the whiteboard, a huge fan. One of the heaviest QBs ever to test at the Combine and scored off the charts on all the measurables. And do you say, Ben, because of that, because he's such a athletic freak outlier, that you got to take a chance on this unicorn?
Yes, but also no. I think that the most important thing to say in the Richardson evaluation, when you talk about him, is that while he is a project, right? He does need development. He's got rough edges. He needs work. He is not nearly like the raw ball of clay, a year away from being a year away. He's not that caliber project. There's shades of gray. We love to go like either a guy's a project or he's ready to play. And it would be nice if the world were that binary, but it isn't. When I look at when Trey Lance came out of North Dakota State, he goes 3 overall. When I look at when Josh Allen comes out of Wyoming, he goes 7 overall. Those guys were doing fewer developed things as pocket passers than Anthony Richardson was. Richardson is one of the lowest sack rate quarterbacks to come out in recent years. He is unbelievable, like buying time in the pocket, finding a check down, getting rid of the football. This isn't like a crazy scrambler, make it all up. It's always backyard football. He does legitimate 202, 303 level things at the football field. He's only started 12 games, so he's not complete. There's inconsistency, there's easy mistakes, but it is not challenging to see the final form of this player in terms of the actual, professional top button quarterback stuff. And then runs a 4.4 and he's 240 pounds. He can throw the ball 60 yards. And so now we're describing a truly elite ceiling. Not saying he's going to make it, not saying he's going to be Josh Allen, but saying that the idea that, if you take Anthony Richardson, you're going to lose all your games in 2023, and then maybe by 2024 he's ready. I don't subscribe to that. I see a player that going to need a little bit of time. The first couple starts are going to be rocky, but I could see you getting a functional NFL offense out of him very quickly.
One last thing is I don't think he's been overhyped. I've been getting some grief on Twitter that I have a type in terms of quarterback prospects. It's like there is no other type that's like Anthony Richardson coming out in the draft. Cam Newton is the only one that could compare physically in terms of what he can be as an athlete, but he might have the best pocket presence in this class, and so that's why he doesn't seem like he's that big of a risk. I think he has a high floor. Maybe he doesn't have, and he has a high ceiling too, and maybe he doesn't reach that, but his inaccuracy doesn't seem that bad to me. They were just throwing down the field, and for the most part, he was accurate enough. And my type is like athletes, but it's also pocket presence. Like Phillip Rivers is my favorite quarterback just about over the last 20 years because he has insane pocket presence. And Richardson has that, which is like you kind of can't teach that. He moves around and makes time in the pocket. So that's like two things. To me, it's hard to imagine having those two things and not succeeding. And he's the ultimate freak. He would be the most fun person to have in your team.
Oh, I have someone that I have been fascinated with, and I heard you talk about him a little bit. It's Darnell Washington. When we talk about a physical freak, 6'7", 264, and just when to watch some of his tape, just the way he appears next to other human beings, even very large human beings on the field. I guess the question is, because there's no doubt that he would absolutely be a tantalizing idea for scouts, for coaches, and what you might turn him into. Do you think that he can come in and be highly productive as a pass catcher after what you've seen on his college tape?
Not in year one, because right now Washington is a guy that in order to produce, you have to funnel him targets. You have to choose to throw him the football. He's really good yards after the catch, right? He's really good turning a shallow pass into a big long run. In terms of his route tree, in terms of how he addresses the ball downfield, he's in need of development. The reason's because Georgia had him and Brock Bowers, who, if you don't watch college football, Brock's about as good as it gets for a college tight end. He's unbelievable. He's going to go very, very high next year. And so they let Brock be the receiving tight end, and then Washington would stay in and block, and occasionally they'd leak him out, use him on play action, and then he'd get a catch here, a catch there, become a stampeding Tyrannosaurus Rex after the catch. But it's not like he just got a ton of reps and a ton of opportunity to develop in terms of a true pass catcher. So if you draft Washington early on to get him to produce in the passing game, you have to decide, okay, we're running a Darnell Washington play. Hopefully, over the time he plays in the NFL, being a plus blocker for you, he's a weapon in the running game, so he can lead block, right? He can be impactful in space. And then with those catches that he gets in the design game, he starts to grow his route tree more downfield, more mature route tree that you tend to see from NFL tight ends. And now you got a stew going. I mean, now you're cooking with about as complete of a tight end as you can get. He's very, very exciting. I'm increasingly becoming accustomed to the idea of him going at the back end of round one. I think if you talked to me like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have said, no, I don't think it's happening. The closer we get, the more it seems like there's a couple chances for him to go late round one. I think by pick 50, he's gone.
Well, you brought up, his playing time, and you kind of have to look deeper when you look at that Georgia roster, like why you're not getting them any snaps. And so when I think freaks or size outliers, like they have 2 more in this draft that we could talk about. Nolan Smith, to me, is like a prototype that we really don't have in the NFL. Maybe it's Hassan Reddick. Maybe the way that defenses are now playing like 5 defensive linemen, essentially like 5-man fronts at the same time, and the 5th guy is like sort of defensive lineman, but not really, and that's Hassan Reddick. That could be Nolan Smith, who just seems like an insane pass rusher, but is just incredibly light. And then also you have Jalen Carter as your number 1 overall player. And he's a freak in terms of his talent, in terms of what he can do at that size. And we haven't really talked about Carter that much other than the off-field stuff. So I guess between those two, I'd love to hear like why you do have Carter first and kind of taking away the off-field stuff, because he's also a guy that hasn't ever played more than 400 snaps in a season, which is wild for a guy who was the presumptive number 1 overall pick. Like why would he be that high without seeing him on the field as much as you would want in Georgia?
Carter and Nolan Smith, man, I don't know what they feed him in Georgia. It's unbelievable. I like when you talk to college people who like look at recruiting, they say the biggest difference between Kirby and at Georgia, Nick Saban at Alabama, is Saban kind of recruits guys, okay, good height, weight, speed, and then we can add mass to them, we can develop them. Kirby just drafts guys who just move differently than everybody else moves. He just scours the country, finds the 10 guys who can't teach it, and gets them all in a Bulldogs uniform. So with Nolan Smith, this is the sort of body type and athletic profile that years ago was going to be carrying 230 pounds. It was going to be playing wide receiver. Instead, now he's carrying 240 pounds and he's playing edge, playing pass rusher. The enthusiasm that this young man has for defending the run at this size is really sick. I mean, it's awesome to see, and it gives you hope that he's going to be able to hang on the edge of the NFL level. You bring up Hassan Reddick, Uchenna Nwosu, who longtime Charger, now with the Seahawks, is another example of he's going to stand up, he's going to line up super wide away from the tackle, he's going to be impactful pass rusher. Can he stay on the field for all 3 downs? Can you put him on the field on 1st and 10? That's the big question with him, and with the way he plays the run in the SEC, I think you can. But I'd be holding my breath. I mean, really, those first couple weeks, watching him in training camp, you're really hoping that he's got that stuff. He's going to be at about a 80-pound deficiency to the guys he's playing in the running game. So it's scary, but he's got encouraging film. With Carter, the rotation at Georgia is partly a result of how well they recruit. It's also part of the recruiting process. They are willing to get young players on the field. We're willing to put really talented freshmen, redshirt freshmen, sophomores on the field. And accordingly, you kind of get some of these low snap counts. It doesn't bother me too much with him. Carter's the sort of guy where, you watch him for about 5-10 plays. You go, oh yeah, no, 310 pounders don't move like this. This isn't real. This is a figment. This has been doctored. This is AI footage. It's Ndamukong Suh-esque in my opinion. I've heard Fletcher Cox. I think that's a warranted comparison as well. This is a guy with double-digit sack potential from the interior. Yeah, conditioning is going to be a question in year 1, but if I'm taking him top 3, top 5, top 10, I'm trying to maximize his role in my defense such that, yeah, if he needs some time off in year 1, I'll give him that time off in year 1 to ensure he's the force he can be on 3rd down. So I'm not too concerned about the volume.
Let's circle back because everything with this draft, and we talk about the outliers, the freaks of the draft. This draft is small. It's going to be a short number 1 pick. You got short arms, you got smallish wide receivers, but let's talk, man. The short king, Deuce Vaughn, running back,
Hero.
Kansas State, 5'5". Greggy, 5'5", Greggy. You got him. The shortest dude ever measured at the combine.
He is a delightful young player. He's quick as a wink. He's tough as nails. He's actually really good in pass protection because he's naturally predisposed to chopping blitzers. He's a great cut block player because he can't really do much of anything else. So he's actually weirdly good in pass protection. I think there's a way that he's a special teams player. I'm not sure that he's got runaway speed such that he's going to be like a truly impactful returner, but he's tough, he's physical, and he can hang. He can definitely make guys miss. You are very limited in terms of what you can run with him as a true running back because he's just not going to be able to break the number of tackles that you need him to in the first level. It's really hard to get him to run between the tackles consistently at the NFL. So I'm sadly out on our short king Deuce Vaughn.